What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of The Truth, the brand new show that debuted over the weekend here on the soon-to-be John Rocha channel. We are slowly making the change from the Outlaw Nation to the John Rocha channel. Going live tonight to talk about this big issue that's kind of bursting at the seams over the last few days since the reactions, reviews, and embargo was lifted on Superman. It's a brand new film that comes out tomorrow in some cities, comes out fully Friday in other cities and the rest of the cities. And I'm not sure what the global release calendar is, just in case anybody's stumbling upon this video from another country or what have you. But I just decided that I should go live to talk about it. Maybe 10 people will watch this, maybe a few thousand. I don't know. But I kind of feel like I want to talk about it. And I don't want to be restricted by how we are on the hot mic with only like 10, 15 minutes per topic. I just want to kind of explore this and see what's going on, because I've noticed the last few days that people are very upset about some of what they consider to be the discrepancies that are going on in the reaction to Superman. And some of the reviews have come out. A majority of the reviews are positive. I think as it stands right now, it's at 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, or it was 86 yesterday. So I think it's at 85% now, 84% now, but 96% on the audience popcorn meter. And this is over 202 reviews, including mine. Full disclosure, I am a Tomato Meter approved critic. I submitted my review yesterday, and I did term it fresh. I like the movie. My non-spoiler review is up on the channel now. If you all want to watch that after, I'll probably tag it at the end of this video for people to on the end screen for people to watch if they'd like to hear my thoughts on it. We will be doing a spoiler review of the film on Friday night, 5 p.m. PT. Me and the Geek Buddies going live on Friday at 5 p.m. PT to talk about it and break it all down as geeks do. Because those boys saw it yesterday, and all three of us are going to see it again before we review it tomorrow night or Friday night at 5. And then Jeff Snyder, because he's not seeing it till this weekend, Jeff and I will have a special episode of the Hot Mic on Monday where we will go live probably at 5 o'clock, where we review the movie and I hear from Jeff and ask him questions on his thoughts on the film as well. So that's what we've got lined up, right? So I've submitted my review, a 250 character review there that you do on Rotten Tomatoes. And but this, I've been seeing this now for the last few days, and usually I kind of brush this stuff off. And, you've seen me on other shows say stuff like, oh, people are just mad because, they don't get to do what we do in terms of being critics and getting enough people watching our stuff so that we make money off Google ads and all of that kind of stuff. But to be honest with you, as I've kind of explored this issue a little bit more over the last couple of days, I've kind of changed my mind a little bit on it, and my mind is always going. I'm always thinking about things. I'm always processing things, always open to hear other points of views when they're presented correctly, and exploring the possibilities. So now there's a lot going on in my mind about this, because I think too many people want to look at this as a black and white issue. And again, I will admit, I was in that camp up until very recently, maybe the last day or so. I was in that camp that, no, it's ridiculous. Critics don't get paid for reviews. And your fans are crazy. You don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. But as I've read some more people's responses, some more layered, nuanced reactions and he saw their explanations for why they believe this, it has given me a lot of pause. Now, full disclosure, I'm a member of the Hollywood Critics Association. I'm a member of the Critics' Choice Association. I recently applied to get into membership at the San Diego Film Critics Association or something like that, but I did not get into Film Critics Society. I did not get in. They never told me what the reasons were, probably because maybe I didn't do enough reviews, or maybe they don't respect people who do YouTube reviews. I don't know. But I do apply to critics agencies because I do see myself as, I feel like I've earned the badge to be a critic. And, I did a number of reviews on Collider, learned how to be a critic through a number of people there who worked there, who were kind enough to teach me the ropes of that. And so when I started to apply for these organizations in these places, I felt like I have a legitimate right to apply, right? And a lot of people have come through the ranks to become critics. We've seen now it's not the standard way of, well, you've got to get plucked out of journalism school or film studies at your local college, and you're also a journalist, and you're going to come in and do reviews. Those days are over. They still happen, of course, but those days are over. It's kind of like cable now, right? It isn't in streaming. It isn't like the old days where you had 4 networks, for those of you who remember that. In the old days, what you had, Siskel and Ebert, you had Rex Reed, you had, Leonard Maltin was starting out in the 80s and a little bit in the 70s as well. Gene Shalit. These are the critics I grew up with, right? And then you get the print critics, and some of them were print, like Rex Reed of the Village Voice, who would also go on camera. And so you saw that, and so I would read their reviews. Tom Shales over at the Washington Post. Like, there's a lot of really good, Desson Howe, Elvis Mitchell, a lot of good critics that I read growing up and still do read, honestly. I still read Owen Gleiberman, still read Peter Travers, still read Manola Dargis. There's quite a lot of critics I still read and try to, kind of always get better when looking at a movie and analyzing a movie. Because if there's one thing I give myself crap about the most that I do on here is film criticism. Like, I'm very, very hard on myself on my reviews because I try to make sure that I get my point across about everything I feel about the movie. And I don't often write my reviews. Like, honestly, when you see me do my reviews, I might have notes, but I like to talk extemporaneously. And I've learned to hone myself to stick into certain ways, to stick in how I'm presenting it in a certain way, because it's easier for me to edit later. So I value film criticism very much. Like, I respect it. It's what I grew up loving about film. Once you understand what film is at a young age, your mind goes, how can I understand more about this movie that I love? And that's what leads you to great criticism and leads you to books of compiled critics' reviews, or books that are spent exploring how these movies get made and what these movies are all about, and what the symbolism within movies, and what was the intention of the director, what was the cinematography, the lenses. It's what we do on the Cinephiles, breaking things down on my podcast that I've been doing now for 9 years, almost 10 years, with my co-host Steve Morris, where we go moment by moment through a movie to talk about the look, the vibe, the script writing, the acting, the directing. So I've earned my stripes in knowing what films are all about. And so when people have been starting this thing over the last few years about accusing critics of taking payoffs, I've always been like, no, critics don't take money. That's a violation of ethics. They're paid by other sources to review these movies. And that used to be the way it was in the past, right? A studio was kind of beholden to whatever the critic felt about the movie. Now, of course, for a very long time, critics have received all kinds of perks with the studios, like the functions, the dinners, sometimes the swag, and it's all been to kind of curry favor with them. It's an understood, unspoken thing that you're not asking them to review your movie favorably, but you're hoping that if you send them stuff, that they keep a positive opinion about your studio, and that could bleed into the review. So although maybe money is not changing hands, although there was a scandal, of course, last year, I got the Wired article up on it where, what was it? Something 15. It was found out that they were paying some critics to review their smaller movie, Bunker 15, to review their smaller movies. So they were paying some critics $50 to review their movies. And to be fair, right now, Film Threat, Chris Gore's website, they have a tier. They have multiple tiers for creators who are coming in and who have made films, and you can ask and pay a certain amount, and they will review the film for you. I don't think it's understood that they'll review it positively, but I think it's that they'll review it for you. And you can pay it and then you get an ad or whatever. And if they review it negatively, if they really don't like your movie, from what I understand from the article, they will offer you an interview or something where you can at least promote the film, even if the reviewer didn't 100% like your movie or didn't like your movie at all. So that's more of an upfront thing, right? So that's the progression. Now, Bunker 15 was paying reviewers, to look at their smaller films because they wanted to bring attention to these films. And so they wanted them to show up in these kind of bigger markets. And of course, they're only paying $50. So it wasn't going to be in these massive places because, I mean, not a lot of critics will take the chance of maybe walking the line of ethics for $50, right? You know, it's going to be something else that's going to make them maybe consider it. So you look at this and you go, okay, look, black and white. It's really rare that a critic actually gets money from the studio, like a check. You know, here, Siskel, here you go, or Rocha, here you go. Here's $5,000. Please say something nice about it. That I've never heard that happening, right? So I have to tell you that in all my years of working with people, and look, there's a lot of loose lips in the critics community. People talk shit about each other all the time. People, even people you see palling around on shows together, they talk shit about each other separately behind the scenes all the time. Not all of them, but some of them do. I've been in the room when I've heard the stuff. I've had people intimate things to me about other critics and things of that nature. So we all talk, and and I include myself in this. We all talk, okay? But in all my years, I have never heard of anyone, and I know a lot of critics, some of them that you know, I've never heard whispers of any of them taking money straight up to review something positively or to have their opinion bought and put out there through their publication or through their website or through their massive trade website. I've never heard anything like that. But now we get to the nuance of the situation. And I think this is where this merits a little bit more of analysis. Because I think we're in uncharted waters. With influencers now becoming a necessary evil for the studios, or a necessary good, if some of you feel that way, for the studios and for the critics, right? We are now interacting with influencers in our theaters when we go to screenings. Now, some of these people are respectful of movies, and some of these people are not, and they're young punks, and they talk, and they act like idiots through movies, and they're on their phone. So you deal with that. Why? Oh, I've got 500,000 followers. I can do what I want. So you deal with that kind of arrogance from certain people at a young age because they're influencers and they make a lot of money. And who the hell are you, boomer or whatever? And so they're all part of the equation. And I think what's happening now, and this all benefits the studios, by the way, that fans are looking at a blending of things. I don't think fans are coming for influencers like they're coming for critics. And you look at the situation with the influencers, most of them, I can't say this. I suppose I shouldn't say that because I don't have factual evidence to say this, but it is my understanding that influencers work with the studios, and they're supposed to say if they are a partner of the studio in their hashtag somewhere. And that was all because the mommy blogs apparently had been getting a lot of free things when this was becoming a big deal, the mommy blogs a few years ago, and they weren't admitting that they were getting these products for free. So people thought that these moms were just randomly stumbling upon these products and reviewing them favorably because, because they like these things, right? And so you saw that in that, and that's what caused controversy. And so now I think it was Congress passed a law about that you have to make it clear if you were working with someone or working with a studio for a company or whatever. So most influencers are, and even YouTube, for those who don't have a YouTube account, when you upload a video, there is a box you have to check, yes or no. Is this video sponsored by a company or sponsored by, anything? A studio, could be a studio as a company or whatever. You have to indicate that in your video, right? So there is these fail safes or these walls that you have to go through in order to correctly indicate your situation when you're reviewing something. So the influencers, I think, get a little bit of a pass from fans because they know, look, these are influencers. I understand influencer culture. I understand that they're getting paid to a degree to do the things that they're doing, or they're getting free stuff in exchange for promoting this stuff so that when people like their stuff, they get a percentage of it. Look, I get offered that stuff, all the white label stuff all the time on my social media and on my channel. I get emails every day from unsavory, unscrupulous people, from people who are trying to send me stuff to promote from Amazon to get me to use this stuff. But, as you've seen on my channel, 9 times out of 10, I hardly ever do it. And so you see that, and that's all part of the equation for influencers. I think with the critics thing, the reason people, I think, are upset about this and have an arched eyebrow is that there is a blurring of the lines going on between critics and influencers, and then critics and how they're responding to movies and to creatives. And this is a problem. And this is why I think this is a much more nuanced conversation. It is not just black and white. I think critics want to be able to fawn all over a creative, fawn all over a studio, fawn all over a movie or a universe, a Marvel universe or a DC universe, and still be considered objective. And I think that's a difficult thing for people looking at it from the outside, like most regular moviegoers are, when you're looking at a critic who is going, oh my God, Pedro Pascal touched me, or oh my God, Tom Cruise shook my hand, or oh my God, Quentin Tarantino gave me a film cell that he signed. And then turning around and thinking you're going to get an objective review. Well, all reviews are subjective, but a fair review from this person, a non-influenced review from this person. And then when you throw in the mix that studios, hold functions, hold dinners, I don't go to that stuff. Being a part of a Critics' Choice, it's really awesome that you get invited to luncheons, get invited to screenings, get invited to get-togethers at really expensive places to meet the filmmakers, to meet the creatives, and get your pictures taken with them. I've always kind of bristled at that because even after premieres, going to the after parties, it almost feels like you're trying to be seen, right? And I've always felt that's not really my job. I want to make a living out of talking about movies and critiquing movies and analyzing movies and TV shows. That's what I want my life to be. And so for me personally, and I'm not passing any judgment, for me personally, I try to not overtly fawn over any creative or studio or movie or TV show or anything. Now, does that mean I don't go, let's fucking go, like I did last night or 2 nights ago for Superman? No, of course not, because I'm excited. I want to see what we got. But I like to think if you look at my critiques and my analysis on things, I'm as fair and honest as I can be with how I feel about something. It doesn't mean that down the road I don't sometimes change my mind or sometimes see a movie again or a TV show and have a different point of view, which happens. We all do it, regardless of being a critic or not. We all do it. So, yes, but I try to be as down the line as I can be when I look at stuff. Now, it doesn't mean that I can't possibly be influenced in some subconscious way about something. So the movie kind of checks my boxes for me and works for me better than it works for other people. And I do get accused all the time of being a shill for Marvel or Star Wars or whatever. And that's just part of the job now, unfortunately. So that's the game. You got to deal with that. That's the game. But I do think that we are in a place now where critics ourselves and critics groups have to take a look at ourselves and see what is going on here, because the people who give us our status as critics are the moviegoers who read or watch our stuff. And if the number of those people are starting to feel betrayed or don't believe what a majority of critics are saying or think their opinion is bought, then we're really getting into some murky waters when it comes to criticism. And this has been happening for quite some time. I think a lot of people do feel this, and I hope I'm not offending anybody in my community or anybody watching when I say this, but I do think the blurring of the lines that critics have participated in and that the studios have definitely fanned the flames of in order to remove the power of critics over their movies so that they can make as much money as possible and dupe as many people as possible to come see their movies, even if they suck. I do think all of that now and the volume of critics that are out there, I think all of that has really oversaturated the market and caused moviegoers to legitimately pause. Now, I'm not talking about the angry ones who clearly should see a mental health professional and, accuse you of all kinds of things and come with toxic bullshit because they're unhappy with their lives. Those are part of it. But there are some level-headed people who are legitimately asking questions about this now. And I think it would be irresponsible of us as a community to not look at that, to not question that, to not explore that a bit more. And as I said, I was like scoffing at it for a very long time. So I get that initial reaction, right? Like I saw, what was it, Rachel Leishman, who did the whole critics don't get paid by, all of that. Meanwhile, she asks a really, in my opinion, inappropriate question of David Corenswet to, in essence, try to enlist him to ridicule Man of Steel. And yes, it was a joke, but that is, in essence, you're trying to harm another creative in order to assist another creative at the junket for that respective movie and those creatives, right? And so in a way, you're not being an objective film critic anymore. What you're being is an extension of the studio, an extension of the film, in an attempt to try to denigrate another film that came before it, because maybe you're upset about the Snyder Bros and how they were online, even though that's got nothing to do with Man of Steel and the quality of Man of Steel. So this is what I'm saying, is that I think a lot of critics who have come into this business want to play both sides of it, which is, I want to be able to be an awesome fangirl or fanboy for this, but I also don't want to have my credibility questioned. And I kind of don't think you can have your cake and eat it too. And I kind of think you have to I think a lot of us need to take a step back and go like, well, this is all nice that you're getting to, God, what is my life? Which I cannot tell you how much I hate when I see that in a post, that someone who has worked really hard to achieve this position, to be able to interview somebody or critique something or write a analysis of something, or get invited to be the host of a Q&A for a noted director. When they post something and they go, what is my life? What is my life? To me, it just drives me insane, because it's trying to play both sides again, which is, I'm just like you, but I worked really hard behind the scenes and maybe stepped on a few toes and manipulated my way into this position so that I could host this stuff. And some of your favorite people who you guys love, I have exposure to them. I've been behind the scenes with them. They are ruthless in their determination to host a panel at Hall H or host a Q&A in a big hall and all of that stuff. Why is that person getting to host over me? There's a lot of that in our community. And no matter how much they all talk about, it's a time for kindness and all of that nonsense, utter nonsense. This is a cutthroat business that you guys don't see behind the scenes a lot of the time. And the smiley, happy, go lucky ones that you guys think are so about the good things, they're doing some unsavory shit behind the scenes in order to put themselves in positions to rise above and to get, because there's an ego stroke that comes with that. And that's the game. So I'm just wondering to myself, and I'm talking out loud. God, I have 600 of you watching here right now. Jesus, thank you so much for joining me impromptu. I didn't expect 600 people to be here live. I'm just kind of looking at it a little bit differently now as my mind is processing all of it. Because again, yes, black and white. There are examples, as what happened in 2024 or 2024 when was it Bunker 15 paying people We've seen that, but there has been no real examples of studios exchanging money with critics. So that black and white approach at the surface level is true. That there is no evidence that anybody has seen or that we've had out there that noted critics have been paid to do reviews. I think there was a studio that like created a fake critic that liked all their stuff. I think it was Sony who did that. But that happens all across the board. I know of people who have created fake profiles on Amazon. Like that was their job as part of being an assistant. It was to create fake profiles on Amazon to write positive reviews about noted people's books or projects or output that was there for people to buy on Amazon. Like I said, I've lived a hell of a life. I've met a lot of people in life. The hermit you see now, it was not the outgoing guy back in his 30s and back in his 20s, 30s, and 40s who met a lot of people who did a lot of interesting jobs. And so that's the truth behind all of it, is that that is actually a thing, right? Everyone that's on, for those of you sports people, Kevin Durant and his burner account. Burner accounts are not new because they've always taken a form. And, you know, I'm sure back in the old days with the critics and the review, like people would probably create pseudonyms to write positive responses to critics because those positive responses, the critic could show to the editor, look at the amount of people who like what I'm doing, blah, 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 and I should get a raise, right? So their friends would write positive things. That has happened. Your friends come, if you're a theater kid, you put on a one-person show, your friends are going to buy tickets to come see you do the one-person show. Your friends are going to come see you do stand-up, right? At the bringer rooms or whatever. Like, there's always been a version of that. And so this is where my mind is going with all of this is, you know, and I don't get much swag anymore. And it may be because I wasn't always good at putting up the swag and saying, hey, this is out or go see this movie. Because when I first started doing, it was independent, they were sending me stuff all the time. And then eventually my conscience got the better of me. And I was like, well, do I really want to promote this because I didn't like the movie? And do I want to tell people to go see it because I didn't like the movie? And so there was all of that was coursing through me. And then eventually, you know, I stopped. They would send me stuff, then I'd stop putting pictures up, and then they just stopped sending me stuff. And so it's kind of like we both kind of ghosted each other in a way. And I'm happy with that. Like, I don't need extra clutter in my house. I don't need to put all this shit behind me to prove to you all that the studios are sending me stuff or whatever. I've got status. I mean, that's a young person's game. And again, if anybody's watching who's a young critic and does that, knock yourself out. That's your game. Play it the way you want to play it. I'm not judging you. I know what it's like to be young and wanting to get seen and wanting to get credit and wanting to get a status from people who are watching you or I don't know, paying attention to you, whatever you want to say. I get it. Right. So I totally respect that. But I know for me, it's not something that I want to do anymore. So I try to be really careful about how I'm posting about stuff and how I'm talking about stuff because I don't want to be seen as someone who is biased in one way or another. And I've criticized Marvel films, even though I've been called a shill. I've criticized Star Wars films and TV shows, even though I've been called a shill. I've criticized DC stuff and Snyder stuff. Like, I love Man of Steel. I hate BVS. And I've still been called a shill. Those, you're always going to get that. So to me, that's like the loud little minority down there that I can pat on the head like a child and move on from. But the people I'm speaking about today are the level-headed people who are legitimately questioning things right now in our world of criticism. And I think Superman is going to increase the fever pitch of it. And we saw that the number for the Rotten Tomatoes number for Superman went down from 91 to 84 or whatever I was saying here. And I think it was it? What is it? Gardner? What is? I did the show with him. I'm sorry. I'm not always the best at names. But he posted something where he said, yeah, Chandler. Sorry, Sean Chandler posted something where he said, "Oh, it was this, but it went down because the British critics have weighed in, right?" And the British critics pushed the movie down to 84%. And some people were like, well, see, there's something wrong if all of these American critics are liking it, but the British critics, they're the ones telling us the real truth. But we don't know that because a lot of British critics didn't like, or sorry, a lot of foreign critics, British or otherwise, didn't like Forrest Gump. And that was universally beloved by a lot of American critics when it came out, American viewers when it came out. So it may just be that this Superman has a really hardcore American bent to it, and it can ruffle the feathers of some critics from other countries. And I would not be surprised if that's an element of it. It's not to say that their criticism isn't valid. It's more a matter of, is there something about the movie that's making it seem like more critics or American critics are liking it versus critics overseas? I don't think that's necessarily nefarious. It's all a matter of taste. Like all these things are subjective. But it's the dichotomy that people are kind of upset about and highlighting. And I have to say, I've said this 3 or 4 times. I want to reiterate it. My mind has changed on this a little bit, and I think there is some self-analysis that needs to happen here, where we look at what is going on, where we look at are we accepting too much from people? Are we accepting too much from studios? Are critics accepting too much from studios? And are we participating in not necessarily a direct pay for play, but are we participating in an indirect pay for play, right? And that's the thing that we need. Like a big website with, I don't know, 500,000, 750, 1 million subscribers, right? A big site, a big YouTube channel, let's say. And you get picked to go see the movie first, you're going to benefit in likes, in engagement, and those views, and the views bring you ad money from Google AdSense. So you getting first dibs to go see these things, and you talk about it on your channel before anyone else does, you are benefiting from it financially. So although you're not getting a check from the studio, I think it is fair for people to ask the question and go a little deeper and say, well, okay, you're not getting a check, but you getting in to see these movies ahead of time, you are getting a financial benefit. And just because it isn't a direct one-to-one doesn't mean that there isn't something to criticize here or be skeptical about. Yeah, and I think that's fair. I honestly do. Like, the more I think about it, the more I think it's fair. You know, if I was, look, I get into screen. I know. So let me explain to you. I gotta take a drink. I've been talking 45 minutes straight. By the way, I know I haven't said this. We're 30 minutes into the show, but if anybody wants to send like Streamlabs or Super Chats, feel free. I will answer them in a little bit. If you have questions, thoughts, or comments that you want to send in through the Streamlabs and Super Chats to support me and what we got going on here on the channel, me going live to talk about this stuff, you really want to get your point outs, send it in through Streamlabs and Super Chats. But otherwise, we've got well over 600 people here live. Thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe down below. This is a new show called The Truth, where I tell my truth as the truth. It doesn't mean it's the overall truth, but it is my truth about the situation. And sometimes the show will be me trying to find out what is the truth. And so I think a little bit of that is going on here in this episode. Is I'm trying to figure out what is the truth, and is there even a truth with what is happening right now? And so I wonder what the end result is going to be of all of this, and what, because I think a lot of, let's be honest, I think there are a lot of critics who like the rub. They like being in the room with these creatives. They like feeling important, getting the access. And so getting to go to these screenings early is an indication of your access. And I remember, because when I was at Collider, I was never invited to premieres. And at the time, because I was still kind of making my name, making my bones, to me, I took it as, well, what do I need to do in order to get into these premieres, right? And then you find out that the studio only gives a certain amount of people from every website seats at the premiere. And because I was low man on the totem pole when I showed up, I didn't get access to those. I mean, Christian, Ellis, Dennis, sometimes Wendy, Perry, Frosty occasionally, and whoever else was the Frosty's favorite writer of the month would get the chance to go, right? I rarely got a chance to go to I had to like hustle through other people and other connections to get in to see things, or other friends who were in the business. Like I went as a +1 for a former friend of mine to go see Infinity War, and that was a great experience to be in the theater. But here in San Diego, it's different. I work with a publicity company, and if you're in with them, they invite you. I don't have to get approved by the studio. The studio doesn't have to reach out and go, yes, it's okay for John Rocha to go. It's not how it works. It's like there's a certain amount of people that can go to this. You are in the list to be invited to all the stuff because we know you have a big reach, and we know you. So I'm not going to premieres, or usually I don't go to the screenings for the film when it's the first screenings ever of the movie, right? Rarely does that happen. Now, even with Superman, it didn't happen because WB had that event and they invited a carefully curated number of critics and number of people to go see it. And that's what they did, right? So those are people that saw it first. But I did see it ahead of Christian. I did see it ahead of other people because for whatever reason, our screening was scheduled for 2 nights ago, Monday night. And Christian's was scheduled for yesterday. So it just kind of works out sometimes that way, right? It's kind of rare, not sometimes. Rarely does it work out that way. So it's not the same thing. I'm not in LA getting to go see the film first. I'm one of the, usually by the time it gets to us, the movie has been out through a number of screenings in other bigger cities. So we're on the list of kind of the lower level cities that get access to, like Dan Merle drives like sometimes 4 or 5 hours to see a screening of a movie, but he's not seeing it the first night they're showing it for anybody. He's seeing it days or weeks later. That's just kind of how it goes. So yes, I do get access to these movies early, but sometimes they're like 2 days early or 3 days early. You know, sometimes it is a week or 2 weeks ahead of time, depending on the movie. But with Superman, I got to see it Monday. It comes out on Thursday. So like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not getting it like worldwide, like world premiere access. I'm not getting that. It's a different situation. So I've seen some people accuse me of like, well, what about you? You get to go. Yes, but I'm going as a cattle call, and I'm mixed in with regular moviegoers because only Disney or maybe one other studio down here has screenings for just the press. Nowadays, it's a mixture of regular moviegoers and critics all in a full packed theater to see a movie. And so it's different. So they're seeing it and I'm seeing it. So are they special too? Like, should you question regular moviegoers who are going to see an early screening? And that's the difference, right? And so I hope I'm explaining that correctly and making that clear. There are certain cities with critics in them who get earlier access than everybody else. And you have to fight tooth and nail to get on that list. And people fight to get on those lists because their status depends on it. And by status, I mean sometimes their job. Well, hell, it is their job. So whether you're running a YouTube channel as a critic or you're a critic at Variety, there is a status about getting to see these things early because it indicates that you're important and your voice is important, so that people will hear what you have to say about the movie first, right? And that you're benefiting from it financially because your YouTube channel, as I said, is getting engagement, likes, views, and you're making money off the ad revenue from the views of the videos you're making because you got to see the movie first. With a critic who's at a site, you're getting to keep your job at that level because you are maintaining your status and your connections with the publicist and with the studio. So then it becomes, well, are they telling the truth about their opinions in what they saw on the screen? Are they massaging reviews, which I've seen, by the way? As I tweeted earlier, I've seen people who massage reviews in order to either avoid getting death threats, which is a terribly unfortunate side of this thing. Now I posted a couple, but I really could give a shit anyway. I don't care about that stuff. Like I know there are other critics, there's some female critics who are legitimately scared of that stuff because women sometimes live in a state of fear in big cities because men can be around the corner at any moment to do terrible things to them. And sometimes these screenings are late at night, like they're getting out at 9 or 10, walking to their cars. And so it can be dangerous. And there's a lot of crazy dudes out there, unfortunately. I wish there wasn't. I wish our gender did way better on that bullshit. But sadly, that's not the case. And so, but sometimes they're massaging their reviews because they want to keep their status. And that's where it becomes the gray area. So this being sanctimonious and being righteous about these accusations, I think is not being honest about this. Right. You're not getting paid, but directly, but you are getting a benefit. And arguably you can make a financial benefit from these situations. And I'm not calling into question the credibility of my fellow critics. I respect so many of them, my colleagues. They work so hard to try to deliver honest criticism and analysis. But there's a reality here that the studios themselves are how can I say this? Are the reason for, I guess I would say, because to me, this battle that's going on now with fans undercutting critics, fans questioning the credibility of critics, and some influencers, although I don't think people really think influencers are telling you their honest truth. And if you do, they're called influencers for a reason. I would ask you to analyze that a little bit more, that influencers are not necessarily always telling you the truth. They're going to the highest bidder most of the time. But with critics, studios get the benefit of undercutting critics for a majority of the films that they put out. Not all the films, because I think they want critics, like something like The Materialists. They really want critics to see that movie and review the movie, whether good or bad, because they want attention for that movie. But for the big movies, because they're not sending you materialist swag. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a difference. For the big movies, they're sending the swag out to these influencers, to these big YouTube channels, to these big critics, to get them to post stuff and whatever. And some of them do because they like the status of it, the ego stroke of it, right? And I think that's where it starts to become all benefiting for the studio, all benefit for the studio, and decreasing benefit for the critic. Because yes, you're maintaining your status, but the studio is making you dance on a string so that you can still have access to their creatives and their junkets and their premieres and their screenings. And so you really got to couch your review in a certain way so that you maintain that status. And if you're participating in that and you're doing that on purpose, then I think there is room to question your authenticity and credibility. And I think it's fair. So that's what I mean about putting down the shield of sanctimony and righteousness, because I think some critics need to be honest with themselves. And I don't mean the regular down here. We're trying to kind of, get people to watch our stuff. We're our own, like I run my own channel and I'm responsible for everything. But I mean, the people who are working at these bigger sites, I think there is legitimate spaces to question the credibility and authenticity of their reviews, because how do we know that they're not massaging their reviews so that they keep the status of the position because they like it and they love it, or they've worked hard for it and they feel like they deserve it, they've earned it? And as I said, I think it's really important to stress this. The studios are the ones who are doing all of this. Like, again, it is the person up top who is fabricating narratives or creating division so that when there's division, they stay on top. And I think that's what's happening here. I think studios, and I can say this, I'm going to say, because I don't want to be like, generalization, nondescript, generalized people at the top twirling their mustaches. I mean, overall, the strategy here is that they benefit from undercutting critics' credibility because that means that people won't listen to them when they deliver a bad review, and they'll go see the movie. Like I see all across social media over the last few years, people are like, well, I don't listen to critics. I go and make up my own mind. You know what people should do? People should just go see the movie and make up their own minds. Well, duh. Well, of course people should do that. And everyone should do that. Everyone does do that. I think everyone does do that. But I think where studios really want to work on devaluing critics is on the big money films because there's so much money involved. They don't want to lose the financial benefit, the profit they could make if they get a string of bad reviews from people. And that's what I see. And that's what my concern is I look at the changing landscape of film criticism, how influencers have kind of burrowed themselves into the land of film criticism and muddied the waters, and then how the studios above it all have benefited from it because they've been able to pump this narrative out that we make movies for the fans. We don't make movies for the critics, and the fans swallow it whole. But then with another hand, they're like, well, critics, come to this luncheon, come to this function, come to this get together, come to the London hotel or whatever, and hang out with us, and come to the junket, and come to meet all the creatives so that you can vote for them for the Oscars or the Critics' Choice or the HCA or any number of organizations. And so that's what I see happening. I know people want to turn on critics and want to attack critics and all. And look, as I said earlier, there might be arguably there's legitimate grounds for that kind of stuff. But I also think some of you all should be looking at these studios who are fanning the flames of this division so that they can benefit from it to get your money from you for their crappy films sometimes. Not with good films, of course, but for their crappy films that they spent a lot of money on, like Madam Web or Craven or God knows any number of superhero movies that have not been good. They just happen to recently a lot come from Sony with Morbius. So in the mix as well. So these are these things that you look at. And so I want to say to you all who have had questions about the credibility of critics, and as a critic, I want to say to you that I hear you. I think there's validity to a degree in what you're saying. But I also would encourage you to also direct your questioning and your anger and your frustration and your non-belief to the studios. And ask yourself, are they purposely turning me against the critics so that they can get my money from me and deliver me a low quality product? Are they trying to essentially steal my money and fool me into believing that I'm in some righteous cause where I'm going to ignore the critics and I'm going to go see this movie, and then you go and see it and it's a crap movie? Guess what? You don't get your money back when you go see a crap movie. I mean, unless you're one of those dicks who tries to do that at a theater, which I've seen people do, which is insane to me. But you don't get your money back when you go see a movie. So the studio has tricked you, and they've got your money at that point. The critics are going to keep going and reviewing on to the next film, right? But you're the one that has surrendered money because you got tricked into believing this one thing. So I'm just putting that out there. So if we're going to explore the nuance of all of it, we're going to explore the nuance of all of it to try to find the truth. And I think that is the truth in my truth about this, in my opinion. Are there some critics who maybe massage their, like we saw recently in Jurassic World Rebirth, right? I saw some criticism from people, social media posts from people who came, and people I respect, people I like, people who in other situations don't bullshit you and don't like to be lied to and don't like to be fucked with. I saw them post stuff like, well, yeah, there wasn't strong character development. The storylines weren't really that well done, and some of the acting wasn't great. But the action sequences were amazing, and the shot of the whatever, pterosaurs, whatever the hell they were called, the love making dinosaurs or whatever they are. Oh, it's amazing. The visuals here are amazing. So it's that kind of stuff where they're denigrating or they're soft. How can I say this? Soft? Is it soft? Oh no, they're underplaying the fact that the foundational thing that a movie should do well, which is to have good direction, good writing, good acting, good script, storylines rather, all of that is being played for like, well, it's not that big of a deal, so that they can accentuate the positive aspects of the movie. And are they doing that because they did enjoy the experience, or are they doing that because they need to keep favor with the studio by trying to highlight the positive aspects of the movie? And I think if some of these critics from some of the, sites that you all love and some of the places I love were honest, they would tell you that they do that because they have to maintain the good. So that's the gray area that I think moviegoers have a legitimate gripe or a legitimate area to wade into and question the credibility, the full credibility of some of the credibility of critics. And I think the same thing goes for YouTube channels. If they're constantly getting access to all this stuff, how much should you really believe their opinions on a movie? How much do you really believe what they're saying? If these people's money depends on them getting access to see this stuff so that they can keep getting views up, and if the views stay up, they can keep paying salaries out to people, because a lot of these websites have numerous employees, then I think you have space to question the authenticity. It's going to be subjective. It's going to be up to you to decide if you want to question them or not. But I think there is space to question that. So that's the place I'm at. I love film criticism. I love being a critic. It's an honor to be a critic. I know some people like Jeff scoffs at me and Jeff loves to say he's not a critic, even though he's a total fucking critic, Jeff Snyder on the hot mic. But like, Christians sometimes try to say he's not a critic. Bullshit. So for me, I appreciate and I love it because it's what helped me fall in love with movies to begin with. So I try to approach it from a place of respect and credibility. And I want to believe I believe that there are numerous critics who feel the way I do and respect movies and want to deliver honest critiques and really kind of agonize over how to talk about a movie correctly and want to honor the critics that came before them, that influenced them to become critics. But I do think the swag stuff, I think getting to go to these events, I think all of that stuff, since we're in the land of social media and people want to post, hey, look who I met tonight. Look, oh my God, look, I'm here at this function with all these actors. Look at the picture of me. That's the stuff that fans look at and go, well, how can I trust you to be objective about a situation, right? Let's turn it around. Let's and I'm going to wade into a minefield here, but like, if you were constantly taking pictures of yourself with like Donald Trump and RFK Jr. and Kristi Noem and all that, and then you're like, well, no, I'm an objective political analyst, but the only pictures you're taking constantly are with the big political figures of one side, I think it would be legitimate to question your credibility. If you come across like you're fanboying or fangirling over these people, and then you're like, no, I'm going to ask the hard-hitting questions. It's going to, a lot of people aren't going to believe you. And so I just, and again, this is all just kind of off the top of my head, thinking about it and exploring it and analyzing it. And it's kind of where I'm at on it. So yeah. Okay. Jesus Christ. 55. I've been talking to him for 55 minutes. I swear to some people say to me, you wrote 3 paragraphs. You clearly were in your feelings. I was like, you don't understand. I can write 3 paragraphs in 30 seconds. Like it's not I'm a talkative person, a long-winded person, man. So, Oh, all right. Well, for those of you who are still here, thank you so much, and I appreciate it. And I want to hear if some of you disagree with me, or you can't, or you know. Rob says, so you can't be excited for accomplishing what's possible. Is it your life goal to constantly take pictures with celebrities, or is it your life goal to analyze a film, to critique a film? Which is it? That's the thing. You can't have your cake and eat it too and expect to not be criticized. You can do all the pictures you want, Rob. Knock yourself out. Knock yourself out. But don't then try to claim some kind of sanctimonious or righteous thing that you couldn't possibly be influenced by these people. If these are, quote, your heroes, the people you looked up to, the people you revered, then yes, there is space to question your objectivity. I think that's fair. Let's see here. Christian has a lot of eyeballs, so it makes sense for studios to tap his audience. Can't knock the hustle. I don't lend his review any more weight than ones I might agree with. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Who's knocking the hustle? As I said, I'm not judging anybody for what they do to make money. What I'm getting at is that to stand up there and say you should not be criticized for it, I think is actually disingenuous. Because there is space to criticize you for it. And people have a legitimate beef and gripe about this stuff. So let's see here. Rocha, you loved SM? You get Superman? Did you get paid? No, I did not get paid. No, I went to a screening which was critics and regular fans. I sat there with 50 people wearing Superman t-shirts, and I went to see the movie. But no, I was not paid. All right, so let's get into some of these questions. I see some of you all. All right, Sean says, no Super Chats now since you got paid by WB. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I wish WB. No, I don't wish actually I got paid because that's a bad thing to say. But like, I wish I was, someone who they even remotely would think about doing that with, even though I would never take it. Wiley is in. What's up? Wiley says, hey, Roke, I like the movie, but had a lot of problems with it. Superman is my favorite superhero, so it hurts to say that. Love that you're getting high views on the reaction reviews. You're the best. Yeah, listen, I put up my reaction and reviews. I did not think it was, look at my previous out of theater reactions. Hardly any of them ever break more than 10 to 15 to 20,000. My reviews rarely break more than 3,000 or 4,000. So I'm really surprised at the numbers. But I'm not going like, oh, I'm getting a financial benefit. Like, it was not in my mind that I would get a financial benefit from it, right? It's like this tonight. Like I was in the mood to go live. And I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to make some money if I go live. And no, I was more like, I want to talk about this. And I want to see what people say and hear what people think, And so it's that kind of it's my approach. I know somebody said to me the other day, look at your low views. You're living off ramen. And no, I'm good. I'm good. You don't know how YouTube works. Clearly, I'm good. So, KJ says, Grace Randolph is amazing, but when she had HBO Max as an advertiser, I was so disappointed. How can she not be biased? Right. And this is what I'm talking about. I think you have a right to say you're not biased. You have a right to say I'm objective. You have a right to say all of this stuff. And you can, and of course, even more so if you believe it. But I think you can't also say that you should be devoid of being critiqued. That's nonsense. Or that if you take on advertisers that are studios, that people shouldn't question your points of views or your analysis or your review of something from that studio. That's only human. That is natural. If I see you getting free Nikes and then the next day you're talking about how great Nike is as an organization, what the fuck? Of course I'm going to question you. So, Cowboys fan 92 says, hey, John, I'm seeing it this weekend. I'm hyped. Why are you going live on Friday with the boys and not the weekend? It's when the boys want to do it, is Friday night at 5 p.m. I mean, yeah. So that's when they want to do it because a lot of people have seen it in the daytime by then and the Thursday screenings. And maybe, we want to keep our weekends kind of free a little bit. So, but who knows? It might change. It might change. Let me talk to the guys. We still got 2 more days before it's supposed to happen, but that's when they were thinking of doing it. Fantastic says, if I were smarter, they'd be begging the Rocha to review their movie because he helped Top Gun Maverick to get to 1.5 billion. Yeah, that's another thing. I don't really try to do pull quotes. I mean, if you go on Rotten Tomatoes, you'll see I don't post as much as I should. And I get in trouble sometimes with them because I don't post my reviews as often as I should. And that should tell you something about me. I'm not seeking to be pull quoted. I'm not seeking to be put on a poster or on a movie. Like when I got selected for Top Gun Maverick, because the Outlaw Nation was still starting out, that was awesome. And especially because I just come out of CinemaCon, that was a really great thing because that's a movie that I love. And I love Tom Cruise. And listen, as I said, I'm the only person I fanboy out over is Tom Cruise. And that I reserve the one place for me to do that, and that's with Tommy C. And I don't do that with a lot of people, really. Tom Cruise is like one of the rare ones I ever do that with. So it was an honor, but I don't go out seeking, trying to put myself up on the thing, nor do I post pictures of it and go, oh my God, what is my life? And it's like, come on, you worked hard to be in this position. The pull quote, and you might have crafted your review so that it would be pulled to be used in a pull quote. So what is your life? Your life is a thing you earned. So own up to it. Enjoy that you earned it and stop acting like they picked you out of the crowd to win this huge award. Stop it. Stop it. Let's see here. KJ says, what is the biggest lesson you learned participating in a media junket interview with someone like a Stallone? I'll tell you this, the Stallone one was really fascinating because I interviewed him for Last Blood. By the way, nobody at Collider wanted to do it. They'll probably all lie to you now and tell you that nobody wanted to do it. They all kind of saw him as a right-wing guy, and they didn't want to do it. Now, I've never seen Stallone that way. Of course, recently, him palling around with Trump has kind of broken my heart a little bit because I love Sly, and Sly inspired a lot of my life. But I was very happy when they offered it to me. I jumped up at the opportunity to interview him because that is on the bucket list. There's 2 people left on the bucket list, which is Tom Cruise and Schwarzenegger. I've gotten Clint Eastwood, I've gotten Denzel Washington, and I've gotten Sylvester Stallone. And it was an honor to speak with him. And I did legitimately like the movie, not because Stallone was in it. Look, Stallone's been in some bad films. Stop My Mama Shoot, Rhinestone, some of the most recent direct-to-DVD stuff. His escape plan was okay, but the subsequent escape plans have been terrible. But I like that Rambo character. And so I got the chance to interview him. I kind of worked really hard on the questions to ask him. And I wanted to make it clear that I respected the character because I'm a military guy. I served 8 years, and I respect that the mental health thing that he explored in the first movie, and that's always been a PTSD character. So what I learned from him, because I was very early on in my status of getting to go to these things with Stallone, was that I could do it. Because Stallone pulled me back after I was done. And he said, I want you to stick around because I want you to interview me with the 2 ladies. And the publicist, and I was like, yes. And I walked out, and the publicist said to me, he's only picking like a handful of people to do this with. And I saw how many people were there for the junket. And so it was an honor. And so for me, what I learned from him is that it gave me the confidence that I could ask the right questions of people and get some good answers. And he was very complimentary of one of my questions, which is something that you really, because God, he's done like 5 million junkets. And I rarely see him compliment people's questions. And so it was a really nice thing for me. And I also interviewed The Rock twice. Like that's the bucket list. That's the bucket list. So there's only 2 people left on the bucket list. So that's what I learned from that. I also learned not to tweet out about Raylo while I'm in the middle of a Stallone junket, because that's when that tweet blew up and Star Wars people got upset at me. Jordan Salyer says too much attention goes to RT scores. Well, I think it's a matter of convenience. I see people get upset about them. I'm going to move the computer over a little bit. I see people get upset about that, and I understand that because it's like, oh, people are not going to go see a movie because they see the score is this or that, or it's fresh, but it's not really fresh because you can get 70%, get a C, and it's considered fresh. How can a film be fresh if it's C? Should there be something between fresh and rotten, which I think there should be. But yes, I hear you. I hear you that you think it gets too much attention because it does affect how people go see a movie. It really does. Because people have movies are expensive. B, people don't have time to sit there and comb through 20 reviews to see if they should go see a movie or not. And so Rotten Tomatoes affords them the opportunity to look at a score and be like, okay, well, a majority of people seem to like it. I'm going to give it a shot. Or a majority of people don't like it. I'm not going to go see it. While also attaching the reviews of a lot of notable critics. So you could, if you needed to, spend about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes even, looking at the score, seeing the top critics, clicking on the link, and reading their reviews. And most reviews don't take more than 2 to 3 minutes to read. But RT allows people to look at stuff and go yes or no, right? And that's the reason for its existence, although I hear where you're coming from, Jordan. Simon says, hi, John. There's probably some conflicts of interest the way you explain it, but between you and me, there is more evil conflicts of interest than this in the world. You are a good one, John. Well, of course there is. Of course there is. But this is not a channel that really addresses that 24/7. This is a channel that addresses entertainment issues, and that's what I'm limiting myself to. Maybe down the road, although I don't want to get arrested and deported, I will, explore the other evil conflicts of interest in the world that you're talking about. But I hear you, man. I hear you. I everything's in perspective, brother. Trust me. Simon says, what does Simon say? Simon says, hi, John. Sorry, Simon. I read yours. Jim 1 says, I like Real Rejects, but it's the old having cake and eat it. If you want to do junkets, you have to accept there will be questions about impartial reviews. Yeah, I think so too. You have to accept that that's part of it. Like I love Olivia, Greg's wife. She's such an awesome person. And she tweeted out this, like, oh, how do I want to get purses and all of that? And I totally understand. I think that's a very funny thing for her to have said. But by the same token, I think people have a right to question this stuff. People have a right to be like, well, look, you benefited from this financially. So yeah, you weren't paid by Warner Brothers, but you got a lot of views talking about your Superman stuff because you got to see it first. And so, yes, Greg could buy Olivia, I think, a lot of purses from the money he made off the Superman stuff, possibly, because they have 1 million subscribers and they make a lot of money off this stuff. Now, he's also got a staff and, a lot of really fantastic people like Roxy and all the people involved there that he's got to pay. And so, I don't know how much is left over for purses or whatever. But, I get that she wants to defend her man, and I respect that. And Greg is one of the good ones. Like, Greg is really honest when he drops his stuff. But what I was getting at was that I wasn't going to believe anything that any of them said who got to see it first until I saw it. And I made it really clear. I said, it's not that I don't believe you as a person or I'm judging you as a person. It's that I don't take your review seriously until I see the movie, and then I make my own mind up, right? And so in a way, that's kind of how I approached it. And I wasn't trying to say people shouldn't watch their stuff or listen to their stuff. I wasn't trying to say that at all. It's just that that's my approach to it, And yes, I agree with you. I think the Real Rejects do some incredible stuff there. They're good people. But by the same token, if they're going to get access to all of this stuff early, you can't be all sanctimonious about being questioned. That's part of the game, And if it was happening to me, I would have to own up to it as well. Like, hey, I get it. I get that you want to question me. I think I'm being objective, but I get that you have questions about my objectivity, even though all reviewers are subjective. All right, that was Jim. Oh, thank you, Jim. Derek, hey, what's up, Derek? He says, I'm on a work trip, but saw you on live. Had to check it out. Thank you, Derek. I hope I didn't bore you with my 55 minutes going. I really did not know I was going to go that long talking about this. So, Derek, I hope you didn't go like, oh, get to it already, or he's being repetitive, as I can be sometimes. But thank you, brother, for stopping in. I always love seeing you, my man. I hope you're enjoying your trip, and I hope you're traveling safe, my friend. Thank you. Secular Monk says, I really didn't care for, didn't Ballerina have a weird embargo strategy? Oh, yes. Yeah, that was the rumor that Lionsgate was saying, if you come to see the movie, don't post anything negative about the movie till a few days later. But they debunked that and said that was the publicist company who was kind of going rogue. Now, do I believe that Fuck no, I don't believe that. I absolutely think the studio did that. But that's not the critics' fault, is it? Because again, what I'm getting at is it's the studios. The studios are the ones who set the terms. The studios are the ones who send the swag. The studios are the ones who are pre-selecting the critics. The studios are the ones who are, letting their publicists know hush hush under the table, like, hey, we really want to get the critics that you all think are going to deliver positive reviews for our movies. Who do you think we should invite? So, yeah, that's the thing. So, I think too many people want to blame the lower people on the totem pole when it's really the top people who are setting the policy from the top down. Cowboys fan says, "Hi John, this show, the channel, and you, John, are the channel. I fuck with the most compared to other channels that I follow because you, like me, you don't care what others think of you." Yes, I don't. I mean, yes, sometimes, sure, because my friends or my lady outlaw, but like, yeah, for the most part, I don't. Nor am I desperate to achieve 100,000 subscribers and get 1 million. So like, I'm just kind of here, and that's kind of just how I approach where I'm at, and I go where my natural instinct takes me. So yeah, but thank you. I appreciate that, Cowboys fan. And thanks for always being here, man. I appreciate it. Steve Catania says, John, I think one problem of today all over is people are too personable, take things too personally, and are generally too personal. Just be a pro. Yeah, I think, Steve, there's an element of truth to what you're saying. And look, I've got to look at myself too. There's sometimes when people have said things on reviews in a condescending manner, and instead of just kind of blowing past it or ignoring it or deleting the comment, I've responded and gotten into some stupid back and forth because I let myself be challenged by their comments and felt the need to respond like I'm back out on the out in the neighborhood on the street going at it with people like I used to back in the old days. But yes, and so I do think there are some people who are in the critic sphere who want to come across as, I have the St. George sword and the shield, and I ride astride this massive horse in the clouds. And it's like, no, man, you can be criticized. You can be questioned. It's okay. And that's part of the job, and it's part of the game. So toughen up. Get some thick skin if you can't handle it, or get out of the game. That's really the truth. Because fans are not going to change. Moviegoers questioning especially now when the questioning critics has become really big. In terms of compared to other times, like it's really become big. This isn't a job for the weak. People will question who you are as a person. If the bigger you get, the more comments you'll get from people saying terrible shit about you or questioning your judgment, questioning your abilities to judge a thing or analyze a thing. So you got to get thick skin. Stop living in a fantasy land that everyone is kumbayaing around a tree about the purity and sanctity of movies. That is not the truth, okay? So people have to come to terms with this stuff because there are fans who legitimately connect to these movies in personal ways, sometimes even before they see them. And so if you're going to criticize their film because they've put a lot of meaning into these films, they get upset. And by the same token, Steve, I think your comment also applies to the fans, that the fans take these movies too personally. The fans take the criticism of these critics of my fellow critics too personally. The fans become too involved, just like the critics sometimes can be too involved with their reactions to their criticism. So yeah, you make a good point, Steve, brother. Thank you so much for sending that in. Good smile too. KJ, what is the difference between a critic and an influencer? The lines do get blurred. Are you a critic or influencer? Well, I am not an influencer. Like I am not. I don't seek to make content to influence people to do anything. Like honestly, I don't. So by the definition of an influencer, I am not an influencer. I am a pundit. I got into this business as a co-host of a podcast to put my opinions out there. But you don't catch me wearing the latest fashion. You don't catch me taking selfies all the time at premieres. I don't get invited to walk red carpets. Like I don't do any of that. That's influencer culture. That isn't my jam. I just want to go to movies and review them and speak about them and host shows to talk about them because I love movies, right? And I earn my stripes as a critic because I have done well over almost 200 reviews of movies over the last 5 to 6 years, or almost maybe honestly, probably, well, I would say almost 1,000 reviews if you combine all the TV shows and movies that I've done episode per episode. Those count. I've done probably almost 1,000 reviews. So I've earned my stripes to be a critic. And really doing criticism every week on the Cinephiles. You could add that. So maybe up to 2,000 reviews that I've done over the last 5 to 8 years. So I think that's the difference is a person who is a critic to the primary focus is to analyze films and to deliver a verdict on a movie as objectively as possible, even though reviews are subjective. I think what we're seeing now is this kind of blending of critic and influencer culture because some critics have influencer tendencies. And by that, I mean, they're the ones taking all these selfies of themselves at all the premieres, at all the luncheons, taking selfies with celebrities, taking selfies with directors, bragging about the things that so that's where the mix, that's what I'm saying to you earlier, is like, that's where it becomes a little mixed. And I think critics have to take responsibility for that. And if you are one of those people that does that, you are open to criticism and you should be able to take it. Get a thick skin. This is the game, Thank you, KJ. Derek says about re-rejects. I'm not going to disparage them. Neither was I, but I will say, watch the out of theater reaction to Flash, and then watch the reaction to Marvels. Then you decide. I watch Rocha and Christian's reviews because they're genuine. Well, I think Greg is genuine. I honestly do. And I think Roxy is genuine because Roxy is like, it breaks Roxy's heart to say something. Oh, Roxy Hart, Chicago. It breaks Roxy's heart to say something negative about a movie or a TV show. And I respect that about her because her general essence of who she is as a person is she wants people to be good at what they do. She wants people to be successful. Now, does that always lead you to the most, objective criticism? Maybe not sometimes, but I think way more often than not, Roxy nails it. And so, especially on TV side of things, for real, I always appreciate her points of views on this. Like I always love when we'll host a show together and there's any kind of review or something. I'm always listening for Roxy's perspective on it because it's always something new that I hadn't heard before. And I think Greg, for the most, I don't really watch a lot of Greg's stuff, but the stuff now, because I'm so busy doing all mine. Listen, I rarely watch anybody's stuff because you guys know I'm doing so many shows. I'm constantly watching stuff to prepare for the shows, reading stuff to prepare for the show. So I don't get to watch too many people's things. So. But from what I remember from when I watched Real Rejects more religiously, Greg tries to be as objective as possible. But again, if you're going to these things early, you don't get to escape criticism. That's the game, and that's all I can tell. It doesn't mean that criticism is valid. I guess I should make that clarification as well. It doesn't mean that the criticism is valid or that I believe the criticism or the criticism is the truth. It's more that you are allowed to be criticized. And because you're doing this, you should understand that being criticized for it and having your opinions on a movie or TV show questioned, this is the deal that you're making. And you're not changing the deal. You're no, you cry all you want, have people tweet about it all you want, people on your staff or whatever connected to you. It's not going to matter. The criticism is still going to be there. So people have a right to criticize you about that and question credibility. It doesn't mean, though, that their criticism is valid. And I hope that's clear in what I'm saying. But thank you, Derek, and I will take a look at that. Lavery Adam, what's up, Adam? He says, the thing that bothered me with critics when I noticed it is when no one had any problem criticizing or insulting Michael Bay for his Transformers movies. What? Literally all the critics destroy. Oh, are you trying? Okay, but somehow the same rules couldn't be applied for Star Wars. This was a real eye-opener for me about critics. Oh, I see. Oh, I see what you're saying. Sorry about that. I misunderstood what you said, Adam. Let me clarify. Let me bring the first part up. He says, the thing that bothered me with critics when I noticed it is when no one had any problem criticizing Michael Bay for his Transformers movies, but somehow the same rules couldn't be applied for Star Wars. That was a real eye-opener for me about critics. This is an excellent point you bring up. And this is like, oh God, I got to drink. Because I have noticed this in the world of punditry and criticism and whatever. It's like people have their sacred cows. People have their sacred cows. And if you're going to, and they're going to be much more lenient and much more forgiving of their sacred cows, especially if their sacred cows are being directed or are starring people that they personally like. Michael Bay is a punching bag for a lot of these film nerds, and they are fucking nerds. Michael Bay radiates a certain masculinity that turns off these nerds. I think it's the same reason for people attacking Zack Snyder. Nothing drives me more insane than these fuckers who talk about toxicity and fandom and say they hate it, and then they make a Michael Bay joke or a Zack Snyder joke. So which the fuck is it? You don't get to cry about toxicity and fandoms and then go after Michael Bay and go after Zack Snyder, because that is adding to the toxicity, you dope. Like, that's the thing when I look at it, is like, if you're angry about the toxicity, don't add to the toxicity with unnecessary shots because you want to take down this guy who maybe reminds you of your dad who used to yell at you, or the bully in high school who used to abuse you. Get over it. Get some help. This is what I see. So I think, Adam, you bring up an excellent point. People had no problem going after Michael Bay because Michael Bay represents to them the high school quarterback, or the know-it-all, or the macho douche that they knew growing up. And the nerds hate that shit. The geeks hate that shit. And so with him and Zack Snyder, they go after him. And never mind that Zack, not one actor has said a negative thing about Zack Snyder ever. Not one actor. But some of their favorite directors and actors have had other people say shit about them, and they don't treat them the way they treat Zack Snyder. They don't insult them the way they insult Zack Snyder. So the same people cry about toxicity are the same people adding to the toxicity by attacking this stuff. And then they try to attach the Snyder bros to Snyder, which it really isn't the same thing at all. So, but I agree with you, Adam. That's a legitimate point you bring up. Like, people had no problem tearing apart those Transformers movies, but some of those same people, and you know who I'm talking about, are all over the Jurassic World, Jurassic Park movies, even though they're fucking terrible. They're all over them, and they scoff and laugh at people who like the Transformers movies. Get the fuck out of here. The quality is literally comparable. But it's because you revere one because Spielberg directed the first one. Whereas if Spielberg had directed the first Transformers movies, I guarantee you that the other installments would have much more, they'd be received in a different way. If Spielberg was I know he's the executive producer, but you know those are Michael Bay movies. If Spielberg had made those movies and was the main executive producer, I think the response to that fandom would be completely, or to that franchise would be completely different. If George Lucas had directed the first Transformers movie and he was the EP on the subsequent Transformers movies, I guarantee you it wouldn't get the same kind of scrutiny that it does from so many of the film nerds and film geeks who got beat up by those guys in high school. Chris Retzliff says, I have thoughts, John, but no budget to rebuke you. You could have written a longer comment full of your rebuke, Chris. I would have liked to have seen that. Derek, thank you, Derek. There's no spoilers here, but there needs to be a convo about Jor-El in the Superman movie. Excited for the Geek Buddies review. Yeah, I saw Film Threats, a little bit of Film Threats review the other day live on Twitter when Chris and the crew were going after what you're talking about, Derek. It didn't bother me as much, and I know that, well, and maybe because like the Superman lore I'm not obsessed about it, and I'm not crazy about it. To me, it was more, I get it, but I have seen that element in the comics before, so I didn't think that was a big deal, right? And the fact that they didn't revisit it is what it is. So I'm not trying, no spoilers, but like, I didn't have as much of an issue as they did with it, although I can totally see why them and you might have, and other people might have issues with it. Again, it's all subjective. Samo says, saw Jurassic World Rebirth, and man, what a letdown of a movie. I agree, Samo. What a letdown of a movie. Don't tell all those critics who said the action sequences are amazing. The character development, the storylines, the writing, the direction, but the action sequences, don't. That's, yeah. Anyway, I agree with you. A letdown of a movie. JM says, I've become a fast fan, Rocha, daily viewer, but I think this one is way off with respect. I don't know. Well, specify. What do you mean I'm way off, man? What do you mean by that? Jordan says, funny, this subject is coming up now when Superman's released. This has been happening forever. Well, no, I think it's hitting a fever pitch with the Superman movie because I think more people are involved with this conversation now than there have been before. And I think it's coming to the point where it's legitimately something we need to address. So I felt the need to go live. But, Jordan, you're welcome to your opinion, brother. Derek says, throwing support, Rocha, keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to throw a suggestion at you. Look into making Geek Buddies a brand, just an idea for you. Well, if the thing is that you guys understand with the Geek Buddies, like, I can't make it a brand fully because Michael and Shannon can't commit to it fully because they work other jobs. Shannon has 2 other jobs that he does as a writer, or 3, as a writer and actor, and he works at Universal Studios. Michael is now running is one of the top guys at a VR animation company. So, like, I would love to turn the Geek Buddies into a brand if those guys could give me 100% commitment. We would start a separate Geek Buddies channel, and we would do content every day. But unfortunately, Derek, it's not something that I can do with these guys because they're busy doing other things. This is my job. This is not their job, But thank you, dude. It's a great suggestion. Dr. John Pimpea says, I plan to watch Superman this weekend. Is there anything you like about Man of Steel more than the new one? Much love to. Yeah, yes, but not in, what's the word? Not in denigration of, I hope that's a word, not in denigration of the current Superman movie. The Man of Steel movie just spoke to me because of the immigrant storyline is just so front and center. As the son of immigrants, it just spoke to me front and center. And I like that movie because of its approach to Superman. And yes, I like the Kevin Costner stuff. I know the nerds and geeks like to get so upset about that moment, like the snicker, and I know they love to do that shit. But I really like that moment. And that moment made sense to me. Just like the moment at the end made sense to me. So for me, do I prefer Man of Steel to this current Superman movie? Yes, but from a personal place. I think they're both very well made movies. So that's what I would say to you. Derek, thank you back again. Says, this work trip sucks. I'm in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I'm bored out of my mind. I missed the first part of the show, but I'll rewatch the beginning later. Always glad to catch you live. Thank you, Derek. Sioux Falls, bro. I wish I could tell you what to do in Sioux Falls, but I have no idea what to do in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I imagine there's Native American museums you can go to or something like that. Maybe try looking at that. I don't know. Maybe there's a Best Buy or an Olive Garden, I imagine. DBZ now says, I love the film, but I would have thought that Superman would be so hotly debated. Maybe everyone has their version of Superman than mine. Not maybe, DBZ now. 100% definitely people have their version of Superman in their mind, and it is sacred to them. And so that is something I've discovered over the years, especially with the Man of Steel discourse, is how many, like Michael and I have battled. Maybe one day Michael and I will have a colossal kaiju battle over Man of Steel versus 1978 Superman. I love 1978 Superman and I love Man of Steel, but Michael loves 1978 Superman and he only kind of likes Man of Steel. And he's had a lot of criticisms of Man of Steel over the years. So that would be the battle that we would have. And it's because Michael has a version of Superman that he thinks is Superman. And he didn't think Zack Snyder's Superman was a Superman that worked for him. And a lot of people felt that way. So yes, DBZ now, it is 100% that people have a vision of Superman in their minds. Ethan Adagio says, what's interesting is that John Campea seems to not get invited to press events, and yet he is still euphoric about Superman. Yeah, well, I think John just gives you his honest, John's not the kind of person that I've ever experienced could be influenced by anybody, or any studio. And I remember when John was, break off to do his channel, and I think someone asked him about bringing on celebrities, and he's always like, it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't move the needle as much as you think it moves the needle to have celebrities on my channel to do interviews. I think he said that, and that always stuck with me. Even though I've wanted to get people on my channel to interview because I just like to talk to people. I understand where John was coming from. So, I get where he's at on it. And I think John just doesn't, he walks his own path. So he'll like what he likes and he'll not like what he likes. So yeah, I don't think you can question, obviously you can question John if you like, but I think he's very honest on his thoughts. Kevin says, great thoughts tonight, John. Thank you, Kevin Frazier. Always appreciate you popping in, bro. And always, I love that picture of you, man. I hope that's you. I hope that's not someone else's picture, because that's an awesome picture of you, but great smile. KJ says, on Cinephiles, can you do Star Trek 5? Sometimes we can learn some reviewing a bad movie than a great movie. We have already talked about it. It will not be on the Cinephiles directly. It'll be an Enterprise Incidents episode, but we will put the audio on the Cinephiles podcast feed. So we will share that. And speaking of which, we're doing currently Star Trek 4 on the Cinephiles. So if you guys have never listened to my podcast, the Cinephiles, I can't recommend it enough. Steve and I, it's a really good show. We've been covering movies for almost 10 years, a lot of classic movies. We're now doing films that will take multiple parts, because we go moment by moment through a movie, moment by moment. And right now we're in the middle of Star Trek 4 with Scott Vance. And it's been so much fun to go back into the world of Star Trek, especially with all the madness going around. But we have definitely talked Star Trek 5, KJ. That is absolutely in the plans. And I think Stephen Scott had Lawrence Luckinbill as a guest on one of their episodes for Enterprise Incident. So I'm not saying we can get Lawrence Luckinbill, but maybe it would be fun to do an interview with him about the movie and what have you. So, Lauren, what's up, Lauren? Says, future show here with Roxy? I bet she would be down. I will say, for how much you rep diversity, it hurts that there's only one woman on this channel at the moment. Yeah, I know. I am sorry. And it's not because I don't want to have women on my channel, Lauren, and I totally hear where you're coming from. It's more a matter of how things worked out. Because remember, at one point I had Wendy, Dorina, and Laura, and then Emma Fife coming on the Geek Buddies. But that was all during COVID years. And everyone has gotten busy because COVID stuff is lifted. So they're not at home as much as anymore. Emma's moved on to do what she's doing there. Oh God, where is she? At the big company, IGN, I think she's at. She's moved on to do stuff there. She's doing a lot of great content there. She's very much set up there. I've asked her to come back a couple of times, but she hasn't been able to work it into her schedule. She's busy. Dorina wanted to stop doing the politics show, so we stopped doing the politics show. Well, we both did. It was kind of a mutual decision because we kind of had run out of gas on it. And Wendy, I felt at the end that Wendy was needed to focus on her channel more, and she was doing more stuff there, and we weren't getting the numbers that I wanted us to get. So in the end, that's why I had to put the show away. But I've got Winston A. Marshall. I've got Vogel. He's a gay man. I'm doing the diversity. Laura, I'm doing what I can. And I hear you. I would love to do a show with Rox, but I don't think I'm big enough to do a show with Roxy yet. I mean, look, she's on with Woolridge, and that's that show gets a lot of views. Christian Harloff's channel, and then Real Rejects. So, she's at a status level. Would I love to do a show with Roxy every week? Fuck yeah, I would kill. I mean, the Roxy and Rocha show or the Rocha and Roxy show would be awesome. R&R would be amazing. But I don't think I'm there yet. So if I ever get to 100,000 subscribers, I think I could pitch a show to Rox and we would make some money off of it. Absolutely. So yes, I would love to do it, but I don't know. So future show, yes, but I have to earn it. And maybe you all can help me by subscribing to the channel and sharing what we do here on the channel so people can subscribe. Kevin's back again with that big smile of his. I love it. I haven't heard anybody talk as deeply on this topic as much as you. Very interesting to hear how the sausage gets made. By the way, glad you enjoyed soups. Yeah, listen, I'm an open book on a lot of things, so I don't mind giving you guys the behind the scenes stuff and, explaining how things work and what have you, and giving my points of views on it. Because you guys know, I was a fan who stumbled into this career bass backwards through Christian, and then, carved out my own place in it. But I always try to remember the roots of being a fan and how would I look at it from the outside in. And sometimes I forget that, which is why I was kind of scoffing at people who had issues with it. But, then again, every once in a while I do kind of remember, and it influences how I look at things. So thank you, Kevin. And yes, I really did enjoy Superman. I wish I could see it tomorrow, but man, everything around me is sold out. I'm hoping that the early showings on Friday morning, I'll be able to go see with not too many people in the theater. Not that I don't want the film to do well. It's more that I'm more comfortable watching films in theaters where there's not a lot of people, less hassle. Cager says, I was getting frustrated that people were saying you are on gun just because you speak truth to power. Stay cool, John. Well, I appreciate you all getting frustrated for me, but trust me, I don't care about those people because they're usually people with like 5 subscribers or 5 followers who are just upset at the world and they're worshiping James Gunn as a cult, and that's their business, right? And but I'm not going to stop being me, if I was worried about being made fun of, I wouldn't have lasted this long in the business. Does it get to me sometimes? Well, of course, I'm a human being. It does get to me sometimes. But overall, I stay true to who I am. I can look at myself in the mirror in the morning. There's no compromises to who I am as a person. And so if I think something's off, like today, his comment, I almost did a whole show about his interview today, where he's like, I told David to shut the fuck up when he was asking me too many questions about Superman. And it's like, really? You want to say that in an interview, that you told your lead actor to shut the fuck up because he was asking questions? Now, he did couch it in saying, David asked a lot of great questions. I answered them, and he was really explored the character. It was so amazing. But sometimes he would ask one question too many, and I would tell him to just shut the fuck up, David. And he respected me as a filmmaker and as a person and didn't take it personal, and we would move on and blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure he wanted to tell me to shut the fuck up sometimes. But the thing is, of course, he's being open and honest, and he can say what he likes. But again, when you say something like that, it makes you come across as someone who would say something like that to your lead actor on the set, which could come off as abusive, right? So that's the thing I get to, is like too many people give him a pass for some of his stuff. And if I'm the lone voice calling him out on some of this stuff, then I'll be the lone voice calling him out on this. I don't have a problem with that. Let's see here. Jim One said, did it feel Superman sacrificed character arcs a bit for nonstop spectacle action? To be sure, it attracts the younger, short attention TikTok generation. How will I say this? They didn't sacrifice character arcs for the main characters. So that's what I'll say to you. Do I think they could have done a better job for people who are not comic book fans? Because I'm really curious to see how casual viewers will view this movie. Did they do enough to kind of set up the situations? Because we who are comic book lovers come in with all the backstory on these characters. And I think the big criticism of the film is that it doesn't do enough to set up the backstory of these characters. And that can be a problem for someone who's not knowledgeable of a lot of these characters on the periphery. And I mean the Justice Gang, Metamorpho, all that, even Lex to a degree. So yes, there are issues with that. I will say that. Thank you, Derek. He says, when I say brand, it's more along the lines of what Double Toasted is and can be used to cover all the people you do shows with. Just an idea. By the way, these open shows, all of us love these. By the way, these open shows, all of us love. And other rooting for your continued success. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I think you're trying to say that people love these open shows, just open, honest shows, which I appreciate. Thank you so much, man. It's very kind of you. And I love Double Toast. I mean, those guys are there. Did you see their night? Listen, gentlemen, or ladies and gentlemen, sorry. If I can recommend you all watching anybody right now after you're done with me, is go over and watch the Double Toasted guys talk about 1978 Superman. I was on the floor. Laughing my ass off. Those guys are great. I need to reach out to them, ask them to come on the show whenever they need a guest, because I think I can go toe to toe with those guys, because they're my kind of people. Double Toasted. And that's people I grew up with. I could be homies with those guys. Like, I really appreciate them. So yeah, thank you, Derek. Very kind. And I hear what you're saying, but that would mean all the shows would be under the Geek Buddies banner. When I wanted the reason I'm making the change to the John Rocha channel is I want everything to be under the John Rocha banner, because that's how I'm going to pitch myself to advertisers and what have you. Is it's the John Rocha channel. People know who John Rocha is. The Outlaw is the Schmodown, and the Schmodown has been dead for 7 years or something like that. So it's a different time, and so I want to do something that connects to me. But I hear you, man. I hear you, Derek. I'm trying to brand, just not Geek Buddies brand. Alan Smithy says, sup, Rocha, I do feel that Superman has taken too long to get here, and the lengthy wait has given everyone too much time to overthink the movie. Studios should limit early info and keep things more under wraps. Less is more. Hey, man, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Less is absolutely more. And that's a fair point to make, brother, man. I honestly think that is a fair point to make for sure, brother. And so, yeah, I mean, sitting on information is not a bad thing. It's a mystery. We need to bring the mystery back to films, brother. Chris Ressa says, I love the Star Trek 4 episodes. Friday can't come soon enough. Yeah, we're probably not going to be able to drop the episode until Friday night, just letting you know, because we're recording with Scott on Thursday, tomorrow. So we probably won't be able to drop the episodes until Friday night or Saturday morning. Just warning you ahead of time, but it is coming this weekend, part 3. And then we're jumping into Superman with Mike Vogel. We're revisiting that. Javier Reyes, 405, says, I'm watching Superman Friday. I can't wait. Right on, man. Love the glasses, Javier. Love the beard. Look at that cut on the beard. Fantastic. Tristan Green says, got here late, but want to show love to Guy Rocha. Keep being you, my guy. Thank you, Tristan. I appreciate it. I'm going to do my best. King of Sport Cal, what's up, Calvin? He said, I've said it before. Your strongest suit is that you stick to your opinions and aren't afraid to defend them. Much love. Keep doing what you do. Thank you, Calvin. You've been with me for a long time, brother. You know how I am. So I appreciate you, man. Fredtastic 314 says, my problem with critics is when I like a movie and the critic hated it, I'm the moron or idiot for liking it, so I don't weigh their opinion anymore. Yeah, any critic who does that is a fucking asshole, honestly. I think that's an arrogance that I don't possess listen, I have arrogance about certain things, but I certainly do not possess an arrogance about movies. I kind of put that away years ago. I think you're allowed to like or not like any goddamn movie you see fit. And I think for any critic to tell people who like a movie that they're idiots for liking the movie is an utter moron, because they have shitty films in there. I said this all the way back to Collider. If you go into any critic's collection of movies, you will find some of the worst fucking movies ever made. Any critic there's films that they like that are shitty. So for them to judge other people for liking the other shitty movies is sanctimonious as fuck and hypocritical as fuck. So, Fred, I'm sorry you felt that way. And if someone said that to you, they're an a-hole. That's what, and anybody who's watching right now, if anyone said that to you, they're a-holes. Javier's back again saying, if you had to guess how much will Superman open domestically? I've seen the $230 million prediction. I don't know if it'll go that high. I think some of the reviews are coming out that have questions about the film. I think some casuals will have questions about the film. So I would say 150, although I'm not great at box office predictions, so don't hold me to it or give me shit about it. So I would say after seeing the movie, it deserves to make 150 opening weekend. Jeff said 160 is like the flat thing, but I think some of the reviews are going to affect people. You can already see the machines going. So I would say 150, man. Rachel Leah, what's up, Rachel? As much as I enjoy his work, James Gunn is a bit of an edgelord, and his antics and need to respond to everything is exhausting sometimes. Rachel, I agree. Although I don't know what an edgelord is. I need to understand what an edgelord is. I've heard so many different definitions, but I agree with the second part of your statement for sure. And it is, and the need for him to constantly be out there doing interviews. Like, you run a studio, you're not an influencer. Stop it. I agree. KJ says, can there be a Geek Bites on the Snyder DC universe? I would love to hear everyone's thoughts. Oh, absolutely. I think that's a very good suggestion. Maybe in the next couple of weeks, we'll do that. The three of us will just get together and talk about the DC universe under Snyder and what our feelings are in retrospect on it. I think that's a great suggestion, KJ. I will throw it up to the boys. Derek Johnson says, my issue with people who didn't understand your comments about Gunn was that they didn't understand that his ability to make a good movie isn't in doubt. His ability to lead an entire studio and brand is what's been lacking. Yeah, I know, brother. It was frustrating to me that people didn't get the difference. I thought I was being very clear, and I said it multiple times. Like, I like James Gunn. I like the movies he makes, but I think the ego is getting out of control in these interviews, and he is pulling the curtain back on himself a little bit too much, and people are seeing the other side of him that can be a bit of a prick. So yeah, but people some, you're not always going to find the biggest mental giants in the world of fandom. Sometimes they're just going to shove stuff together because they want to be upset about something. So thank you, Derek, for clarifying that for me even further. War Table Entertainment and Gaming at War Table. I loved Superman. Do you feel like this Superman is the next generation's hero? It seems to be very Gen Z and fun. Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to it because I'm not Gen Z, but I certainly could see that it could do that because I think Corn Sweat's fantastic in the movie. And I think the way it's handled in the way it's portrayed. And I think James has tapped into a certain energy with all of his projects that appeals to a lot of people. And that energy is here in full blast through the movie. So yes, I think it's very possible. It depends on the movie does. And then the next movie, I think, will let us know for sure. Derek Johnson says, you and Double Toasted would be awesome. I have watched that episode you did when Corey was on Christian's old channel, and I crack up every time watching you guys. Oh my God. Corey was great on that show. That was so much fun to do stuff with him live. I mean, honestly, it was amazing to do stuff with him live. So yeah, Derek, I'm going to push for them. Maybe you guys can suggest it, but I'm going to reach out to them and see. All right, 3 Streamlabs, then we got to go. Mike McKenzie says, Ghost of Yote State of Play is tomorrow, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You should react to it. Your next game to play should be Spider-Man. I have that. So much fun. I have Spider-Man because my brother, Yuri Lowenthal, is the voice of the Spider-Man games. We did a podcast, 2 podcasts for a year together. So yeah. Fred Tastic says, hi, hey, John, I try my hardest to watch every movie I see all the way through because it may be bad until the ending. If I spend my money, then I'm going to try to find something I enjoyed about it because I hate feeling like I got ripped off. It's a valid point. I think it's a total fair way to watch movies, my man. Absolutely, dude. Samuel says, thoughts on Dean Cain saying that he's worried the new Superman movie would make the character too woke for being too pro-immigrant. Too pro-immigrant. Brother, I give a fuck what Dean Cain has to say about anything. Honestly, I don't care. He is a right-wing grifter now, and so he is going to say right-wing shit, and whatever right-wing talking points they come up with, they put a chip in his brain and he spews it out. So there is no one who deserved to wear that cape and that S on his chest less than Dean Cain. And from what I understand through the years, Terry Hatcher was no fucking sweetheart either. So both of those two, but both of them were probably the worst, honestly, Superman and Lois's people ever to be those characters. So yeah, Samo, I hear you, but I don't care a shit about what Dean Cain has to say about anything. All right, that's it. I got to wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen. Lady Outlaw is back home after 7 days away. I need to be with my Lady Outlaw, and we need to get some dinner. So thank you for hanging out with me live. Thank you for all the Streamlabs and Super Chats. I appreciate you all very, very much. This was an impromptu show. I can't believe over 600 of you were watching for a majority of it. For those of you who are left, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe down below. Hit that bell button. Share this. Let people know about the stuff going on here. And let me know what you think about The Truth as a new show here on the channel. This is our 2nd episode. Do you enjoy it? Do you like what's going on here? Let me know what you think about it all down in the comments section below. Go see Superman this weekend. Let me know what you think. See if you liked it, didn't like it. Let me know. My reviews and my out-of-theater reaction and my review is up there. And we'll let you know when we're doing our review of it for the Geek Buddies. And then Jeff Snyder on the Hot Mic and I, we are going to be doing a review of it on the show as well early next week. So look for all of that. Thank you guys so much. Much love to you. Take care of yourselves. Be well. And remember what I say at the end of every one of these shows, whatever you need to do to get through the next second, next minute, next hour, next day, next week, next month, next year, I want you to do it. I want you to do it. You never know what's waiting for you on the other side, honestly. And I'll repeat what that phrase that I saw the other day. If you're going through tough times right now and you think you can't get through it, look at your track record of getting through tough times in the past. You are undefeated. So you can do it. You can find your way through it. It's not always easy, but you've been able to survive before. You can survive again. Have faith in yourself. All right. I love you. Take care of yourselves. Be well. And I'll talk to you next time with a brand new episode of The Truth.